Hello, everybody. This is Joseph P. Farrell with news and views from the Nefarium on Thursday, August 29th, 2024. We've got a string. You can hear my little pooch whining in the background. It's okay, Shiloh. It's okay. All right, we've got a strange little story to talk about today. Very little housekeeping to do. We do not have a vid chat tomorrow. Please keep abreast of the schedule on the website. Our vid chats for the last third of this year, from next month all the way up to the December holidays, are already posted. That is always conditional, of course, on the weather cooperating, which, interestingly enough, we're supposed to get another cycle of some storms this weekend. So please keep us in your thoughts and prayers. Anyway, there's an odd little story out of the Netherlands that I want to thank a bunch of you for finding and passing along, because I suspect that this story is part of a much wider and very old pattern that, if you are a regular reader on this website, you will have been made aware of years and years ago. But this story is very interesting. It's a very short story, so I'm going to read the whole article. Of course, I'll link it for you so that you can look at the key paragraphs here, but I'm going to read the whole article. It was posted yesterday, Wednesday the 28th, by Niam Lynch in the United Kingdom. And here's the story. Quote, "Flights grounded and police forced to communicate by text on duty as IT outage hits the Netherlands." And here's the article. The Dutch Ministry of Defense confirmed that they had experienced a network outage resulting in a major IT failures across the country. Flights have been grounded and police officers were forced to communicate by text while on duty as a network outage at the Dutch Ministry of Defense caused major IT failures across the country. The extent and cause of the problems are not yet known, but a spokesman for the Dutch Defense Ministry confirmed the issue can be traced back to one of their networks that is also used by other parts of the Dutch government. Travelers at Eindhoven, the Netherlands' second largest airport, were stuck since early morning, with flights from budget airlines Ryanair and Transavia cancelled. Quote, "There is no air traffic at all, and we have very little information about the cause," unquote, spokeswoman Judith de Roy said. All flights at the airport were grounded until at least 5 p.m. local time, 4 p.m. United Kingdom time, resulting in at least 14 canceled flights. Now here, folks, are the two key paragraphs, and then there's two more right at the end of this article. Here we go. Quote, "Some flights were diverted to Germany's Wiese Airport, about 90 kilometers from Eindhoven, as well as Schiphol and Belgium's Brussels Airport, both around 125 kilometers away. The airport also serves as a military airport operated by the Dutch Defense Ministry. The country's largest airport, Amsterdam Schiphol, has not reported any problems. The alarm and the communication systems for emergency workers were also affected. The Coast Guard said they were not reachable by phone or radio, while police officers used mobile phones and text messages to stay in contact rather than their normal communication system." Now, let me read that sentence again, folks, because that's a very important sentence. The Coast Guard said they were not reachable by phone or radio, while police officers used mobile phones and text messages to stay in contact rather than their normal communication system. Now, that implies that more than just an IT failure or an internet failure is involved. But let's continue. Telecom company KPN was also experiencing a major outage with its mobile service, but the company said it was unclear if the problem was related to the issues at the Defense Ministry. So, in other words, folks, we may be looking at a problem at the Defense Ministry which spilled over into various parts of the Dutch military, or we may be looking at a simultaneous problem that hit the Dutch Defense Ministry and the telecom company. Final paragraph here in this article. The Dutch National Cybersecurity Center said it is not known if the outage is a result of a cyber attack. In other words, can't rule that out yet, folks. The Defense Ministry said it was unclear how long the outage may last. And that's the article. Now, let me say right up front, in dealing with this story, I have no doubt whatsoever that this is a deliberate cyber warfare attack of some sort. I have no doubt that it is in partial response to some statements that have been made by the Dutch government in support of the Ukrainian war previously, although you have to remember that that support has been rather wobbly, and you can't blame the Dutch for that. So my real problem here is that this was an attack carried out against a Dutch military as well as civilian facility. Schiphol is not. It's an entirely, as far as I know, civilian international airport. So we have, in other words, an attack on a military infrastructure, and it appears that this attack is related to a simultaneous problem with communications by radio with a portion of the Dutch Coast Guard and perhaps other segments of its military that we don't know about yet, and in addition some sort of problem at the National Telecom Company. So this, to me, is part of a pattern. If you go all the way back, and you can find these articles on my website, you'll recall that there were certain attacks that occurred a few years ago. I want to say about between 7 and 10 years ago, maybe a little bit less than that. There were attacks on internet infrastructure in this country, and those attacks, incidentally, were physical in nature. They were not merely cyber warfare. There were attacks in San Francisco, you might recall, as a group of professionals apparently went underground into the San Francisco underground system and deliberately physically cut some of the cables supplying internet service in that city. Then you might recall that there was a similar attack that occurred on internet cables between Flagstaff and Phoenix, Arizona. And again, these cables were physically cut, and this was done very quickly and very professionally. And then you might recall that sometime after that, there was a cyber attack that took down the Salt Lake City, Utah air traffic controllers radar and system, and messed up the entire southwestern United States air traffic control system, as flights had to be turned over to other air traffic control centers that did not normally handle this traffic. So in other words, it began to look to me back at the time, and you can find articles on my website if you search for them. It began to appear to me at the time that someone was deliberately targeting these attacks, not only to create a bit of upset and a little bit of chaos, but also to learn the precise physical architecture of the internet interconnections, the gateway computers, and so on and so forth in this country. Sometime after these events, you might recall, there were cyber attacks on Sony, on Wells Fargo, and even, if I recall correctly, J.P. Morgan Chase. And again, my thinking at the time, some of these attacks were acknowledged by the hacking group Anonymous, and some were not. But at the time, again, I opined that these types of attacks looked to me as if someone was trying to reconnoiter or map the cyber architecture of the internet itself, to know how precisely, when and where specific attacks could be targeted. And this particular story coming out of the Netherlands, in other words, looks exactly this way to me now. It is a story that indicates a precision reconnoitering attack, and also an attack designed perhaps to send a message to the Dutch government. And I have no doubt that probably Russia may be behind this, or perhaps China, or both, in doing this. Perhaps it's also designed to send a message. So, in other words, it has two objectives: spread a little chaos and do a little bit of reconnaissance in exploring the internet architecture within the Netherlands, but also a bit of message sending to that government. This is a very interesting story, and we're going to see and watch carefully if in future days or weeks similar attacks might or might not occur in the rest of Europe. I would imagine that if they do, they're going to be in places like Germany or France, perhaps some of the other EU countries, but those would be my guesses right off the top of my head. Poland, certainly. So this is a story to watch, folks, and watch carefully, because I think it presages, again, more of this internet reconnaissance that I've been positing for a number of years taking place as countries try to beef up their cyber warfare capability. So that'll do it for today's news and views, folks. Don't forget, we do not have a vid chat tomorrow. Please remember to keep checking the forum and the schedule on the website for the vid chats coming up in the next 4 months. Don't forget, the new book is available at Adventures Unlimited Press for pre-order now. That's called The Rialto in Richmond. I imagine the more pre-orders they get, the sooner they will have it printed up. So that's a way of trying to sell the book, folks. Anyway, we'll see you on the flip side, everybody. Bye-bye, and God bless.